My family made fun of my gift, my sister's son threw it on the floor and everyone laughed. I silently picked up my coat and walked out into the stormy night. For the first time the world saw my serious side. My nephew picked up the gift I had given him with both hands, looked at it for a second, then laughed and threw it straight onto the floor. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the room, followed by a wave of laughter. My sister's sharp, cutting laugh, my mother's restrained chuckle, and everyone else's laughter that made it clear you were never taken seriously here. I stood there, my hands still half extended, as if the gift were somehow still in them. "Oh God, what was that?" my sister said, laughing. "Looks like something from a dollar store." I looked down. It was a small handmade frame, the kind you don't buy because it's perfect, you make it because it means something. Inside it was an old photo of her son, taken years ago, back when he used to run toward me instead of past me. "Hey, chill," my brother-in-law said, taking a sip of his beer. "He's just a kid." "A kid? Sure. But that laughter? That wasn't just a kid." I didn't say anything. I just reached for my coat draped over the chair. Outside, the rain had picked up, hitting the windows hard enough to rattle them. "Oh look, here comes the drama," my sister added, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "It was just a joke." I didn't even look at her. I opened the door and stepped out. The cold hit me immediately, sharp and honest in a way nothing inside that house had been. Rain soaked through my coat within seconds, but I barely noticed. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, not moving, just letting it all settle. This wasn't new. I remembered the night I lost my job, laid off with a handshake and a "we'll keep your resume on file." I had driven straight to that same house, hoping for something. I don't know, support maybe. My mom didn't even let me finish before saying, "Everyone goes through hard times. You'll figure it out." That night, I slept in my car behind a grocery store, staring at the ceiling and pretending it didn't feel like the world had closed in. Then there was Christmas 2 years ago. I had used what little I had left to buy my nephew a decent gift, nothing flashy, but something I thought he'd actually use. He didn't even open it. Said he wanted something real, something with a logo on it. I laughed it off then, like I always did. That was my role. The one who laughs it off. Standing there in the rain, I realized something that felt uncomfortable and freeing at the same time. Maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe I had just been playing the part they handed me for too long. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I already knew who it was before I checked. "Mom." I answered. "You really just walked out like that?" she said, already irritated. "Yeah," I replied, calm. "You need to toughen up. People joke. It's family." I exhaled slowly, watching the rain hit the pavement. "Family doesn't throw you on the ground and laugh, Mom." There was a pause, short, but heavy. Then the line went dead. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and started walking. I didn't have a plan. Just one clear thought, I wasn't going back. A few blocks down, I saw a small diner still open, its neon sign flickering in the rain. I stepped inside, and the warmth wrapped around me instantly. The smell of coffee and grease felt oddly grounding, like stepping into a place where people didn't need explanations. A waitress, older, maybe in her 60s, walked over. "You okay, honey? You're soaked." I nodded. "Yeah. Just coffee, please." She looked at me for a second longer than most people would. Then she said, "It's on the house." I frowned slightly. "Why?" She gave a small shrug, a soft smile. "Because sometimes people just need a break." I didn't argue. I sat in a booth near the window, hands wrapped around the warm mug when it came. The heat felt foreign at first, like my body had forgotten what comfort was supposed to feel like. For the first time in a long while, I asked myself something real. What now? No job. Rent overdue. No safety net. And now, no family I could pretend was still mine. But there was something else too, something I hadn't noticed before. No expectations. No voices telling me who I was supposed to be. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't tapped in years, Jake. We used to work construction together before everything fell apart. He had always been straight with me. No games. I typed, "If you're still hiring, I'm ready to work." I hit send before I could overthink it. The waitress came back, refilling my cup. "So," she said, leaning slightly against the table, Where'd you come from? I let out a quiet laugh. Somewhere that thought it knew me. And where are you headed? I glanced out the window again. The rain hadn't let up, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. Don't know yet. But this time, I'm choosing it. She nodded like that made perfect sense. That's a good place to start. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Jake. If you're serious, be here at 7. Work's tough, but it's honest. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't some big turning point wrapped in a perfect moment. It was just an opening. But for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn the right to walk through it. I finished my coffee, thanked the waitress, and stepped back outside. The rain was still there, steady and cold, but it didn't feel like it was pushing me down anymore. If anything, it felt like it was washing something off. I pulled my coat tighter and started walking again. This time, there was direction in it. Not certainty, but movement that felt like mine. As I walked, I thought about going back, just for a second. About what I'd say, how I'd finally stand there and not laugh things off. But then I realized something else. I didn't need to go back to prove anything. The next morning wasn't going to be easy. Showing up at 7 a.m., working a job that would leave my hands raw and my back sore, that wasn't some cinematic comeback. But it was real. And for the first time, real felt enough. By the time I reached the corner, I didn't look back. The people who laughed last night? They weren't the end of my story. For the first time, I was. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of your own journey, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It truly helps more than you know. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for giving this story your time.